All right, folks, I think we can get started. We have got a few folks tuning in. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone from wherever you're joining in. My name is Prithviraj, and I welcome you all to this LitmusChaos contributor and maintainer meeting. I think we are reconvening after 2 to 3 months. We were busy with KubeCon and then Chaos Carnival, and there was so much happening in the community. And I hope a few of you participated in the same. And this meeting basically is to reconvene our efforts towards LitmusChaos. The idea is to have a dedicated cadence, have a few folks who uh, plan and contribute to the project, can share their inputs and feedback to the project, because now that we have already, I think it's 1.5 months since LitmusChaos became an incubating project. We are obviously seeing a good amount of traction in terms of adoption, but I think the next goal is to increase the amount of contribution. It need not be, just code level contributions, but we are also looking towards feedback and your time in, whichever way you can dedicate some amount of your time, at least let's say in a month or a week. So that's why was the idea of scheduling this meetup, and we invited a limited number of folks. Only a few folks have tuned in, although the idea was to invite anyone from the community who wants to join in. But we also shared the invite with a few specific folks so that they can come in, they can share their inputs, they can share how they look at the project and how they can contribute to it. So I think first of all, I'll allow Sayan to come up and share some inputs, some thoughts, and then we can just, this is more like an open floor discussion. We don't have a set agenda for today. So I think Sayan can just share some inputs, his thoughts on contributions, and then I think we can go one by one on how much time you can dedicate. What are your ideas on contributions? If you have any questions, then we are open to take a look at the questions as well. We have a lot of contributors and maintainers joining in. So the questions will be answered as well. But first of all, like the first 30 minutes, we'll just spend behind the project status and how do we look at, contributing as an individual. And then I'll also run a poll on when should we have this monthly cadence meeting. Is this day, I mean, third Wednesday of the month, same time, fine for you, or do you want to set a particular date and time? We can discuss on the same, but right now let's hear it from Sayan.
Sure, sure. Hi guys, I hope I'm audible. So first of all, I think it's great to see people from uh, a few people from different time zones joining in so late as well. Especially I think Amku, it's pretty late for him, and also he is one of the LFX mentors for us this quarter. So it's great to see people from different time zones joining in this. I also wanted to talk a bit about the LFX mentorship of the LFX program that we've had, because it has had a significant contribution to the open source project. I'll just share my screen once. So before, like, we had created a lot of issues regarding the LFX, and this was greatly helped us because we previously had no test cases coverage on the backend, and now we have quite a bit. And basically bootstrapping the entire backend to be able to make it unit test or testing ready. That is a big feat in my opinion. And let's kudos to LFX and him, Namku, for doing this, first of all. So this is a great change, I think, for us in terms of open source maintenance, because I think once we have the base or the backbone ready, right, we can incrementally add more and more test coverage. Then we can decide on what tools to use, what improvements we can make, and stuff like that. So there were a few issues and other major areas where we could improve in the code, which is why with this LFX term, we also faced a few challenges right at the beginning, because that code was not really testable at the moment when we started it. But then we got to know about the pain points, and we started introducing this new mocking interfaces and everything, this entire concept, which also helped us refactor the entire architecture per se, for the backend, yeah, in terms of how we make our services and how we make our repositories and everything. So the code structure has changed, not for all the components obviously, but for a few of them. I think it's good learning for us in terms of what we can kind of revamp for all the other components. So yeah, that is one that I just wanted to put it out there. Secondly, I generally have created this OSS improvement doc. I'll just share this link as well. So this is kind of a place where I really put in this also had edit has edit access, so you can update. So it's like generally I put the overall tech debts at the top, and the bottom is mostly for non-functional requirements or for anything that can help improve the maintenance and stuff. This is kind of like a doc that I keep for the open source, and I can talk about the general debt that we have right now, which we can improve. And of course, there are issues and pull request links, so you can go ahead and take a look at those. But the main thing is the first one, right? Updating Go from version 1.16 to 1.20. That is itself a big task, and I don't think it happens overnight, right? Because you have to test the compatibility with all the other packages, all the other dependencies, codependencies, etc. So these are kind of like big things which we have to ultimately migrate, but we can't really do it overnight. And it also depends on some of the other components that are dependent on these core dependencies. That is something we should plan, but yeah, we definitely have a we should have a fail-safe option, or if not, we should have like a fees or some kind or maintenance period so that we can easily test everything and port it from this to that. Because with the current version, we kind of have certain known security vulnerabilities which were definitely addressed with the latest versions. So we are still behind, and those vulnerabilities are still available to us. We are still vulnerable because we are still using that version. So that is kind of a thing we are delaying, but we should do. There is one thing I have in mind, so that is the talk, but definitely we can. This would take a lot more time than the other. Secondly, we have a open source support issue, which is currently we do support open source. We have an entire document written on certain security policies that we have to apply for open source. But I think even though we have all of that, there are still a few issues that the users are facing, and I think it's well documented in this issue. So I think there's also a comment specifying that we have this security, but he deliberately mentioned that this is far beyond that, and he has also added a PR which addresses these issues for open source, which we haven't closed yet. I think it's ready for review, but that addresses most of the OpenShift issue that he faced. That is one. We can take a look at that. Secondly, we have a backstage integration for LitmusChaos, which was I think open for quite a long. I think it would help us kind of uh, cluster all the information we have and also use it as another tool that we can gain some traction out of. Because it's also a CNCF project, so integration always helps. So I think Backstage would definitely give us an upper hand if we do that integration. But yeah, this is not really this is also not an overnight task. So we might have to allocate resources for this and plan it out accordingly. Yeah, that is another issue that we haven't really outsourced. So some of the uh, community members are interested in this, but we haven't really assigned someone just yet. As you can see, it's quite old. It's for 22. So yeah, we need to brush these up and take it back. Take this one back up to the top so we can prioritize these integration efforts so that we get more traction that way. And another is the addition of a memory leak as experiment. I think this was an issue which was stopped quite a lot. Like we had a lot of conversation regarding this. It was long back, 2021. But we had a lot of conversation about it, but it became stale ultimately. There were some blockers that the community member faced, and they were having discussions on Slack. But it was, I think, ultimately it mellowed down. We did not really take a proper look into it, and we did not really mitigate this. So I think we can take this back up. This is a good experiment to have for its, uh, the idea is it's a thing to have to if you can simulate a memory leak because it's kind of like a very natural and a very common thing to happen in a lot of the deployed applications. If you can target that, that could be a great addition to the open source experiment. Yeah, that is mostly on the tech debt side that I noticed personally. And secondly, for the non-functional, for the maintenance and those kind of improvement, I think there's one thing which is already being addressed right now, which is adding a blog page to the LitmusChaos website, which wasn't present at all compared to a lot of the other CNCF projects where you can easily get a link to blog and the community can easily get a handy resource of all the things that are there, all the integrations, all the mini details or use cases if someone has tried it out. We have around 70 plus blogs right now, but it was not really present or highlighted in the website right now. So I think adding this would be a great addition to the website and also a big plus to the community. So I think that is already worked upon. We already have a PR. So this part is addressed. The last I think is we can have these kind of discussions on six or even this meeting that we're having in whatever cadence we decide. And I think that would mitigate all these things going stale, right? So I think right now a lot of these issues were very good features, good improvements, and also some of them were just good bug fixes or like some of the good bugs which the community was interested in adding, but due to unavailability or like unable to follow up properly, these got stale. The issues are still open and it was not really addressed properly. So I think these cadence or these SIGs or these kind of meetings would really help brush it up to the top and give it more priority. So yeah, these were some of my opinions that I had, and I just really have this talk. I'll keep adding more if I find some. Yeah, these were some of the things that I wanted to share. If anyone has any opinions on how we can mitigate this, or if you would just like to add more to this list, feel free to do so. Or if you have like a solution to this, also feel free to say.
Right. Thanks, Sayan. I think if anyone has any suggestions on mitigations or something, I think they can share the same. But I think we can open the floor right now, as I had mentioned. So the floor is open to discuss your contribution or your idea of the project, how you are related to the project. Are you looking to contribute, or your idea is to adopt the project, you're using the project? And if you have any questions, so we will go one by one. So I think we can start with Ram Samarth. I see he's one of the new joinees. You can just introduce yourself and let us know how you're looking to contribute to the project. What's your idea, and how much time you can give. Meanwhile, I'll just run a poll on when we should be having this monthly cadence call, so that everyone who's joined in, they can just select what time fits, and we'll from next month onwards we'll have regular such calls. But Ram, you can just unmute yourself and speak through.
Sure. Hey everyone, it's great to be here. I'm Ram Samath. I'm from India and I'm an open source enthusiast. So I came across this CNCF project when I was looking through the LFX mentorships. So I'm really into working of Kubernetes. So when I went across through various mentorship projects and I came across this Litmus project, it caught my attention. When I started reading how the project really works on the chaos engineering and its efficiency, I just loved it. So when I saw the issues, and it was the one of the issues which caught my sight was migrate chaos workflow API from GraphQL to REST. So the thing is, I really have some interest in Kubernetes, and then I have some really good interest in API development. So I thought, since I have interest in API as well as cloud native Kubernetes, so how about going to this project, understand things properly, and contribute to this project? Because I really love cloud native because it has some great tools which has helped the developers automate, not only automate, make their life very much better in the development phase. So I'm really new to this project. So I'm currently going through the things are going on in documentation and tutorials. So I just really want to keep in this project as a contributor. So I just wanted to ask some guidelines as to how working started for the LFX mentors.
I think Ram, we have Nanku here. He is one of the LFX mentees as well. Maybe he's written a couple of blogs. We can share it with you, and maybe he can share some inputs on his journey in the call as well. But I think if you go through the blogs, and if you need any resources, you can reach out on the channel. That will be helpful.
So that would be great. Since this LFX term is going on, so any guidelines as to how to get into this project very deep and how to start our initial contributions apart from the blogs? Like if the mentor of the project is here itself, so I could just receive some guidelines from him.
I think we have the mentor in science, and if you have any points for Ram.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So I wouldn't like say this like the guidelines per se. You can definitely check out the wiki. That is the main like the source, I would say, to go if you are new to the project. So you can check out the dev guide initially. Before that, you can also check out the docs for architecture if you have any doubts regarding that. And the second point is the Kubernetes workspace and the Litmus channel. We have two channels, Litmus Dev and Litmus. So we generally hang out in the Litmus Dev one, but the Litmus is mostly for open-ended community and updates apart from Dev. So you'll find a lot of resources and a lot of activities going on around in that channel. But specifically, if you're trying out and getting your hands dirty, I would definitely recommend the wiki. You'll find a local dev setup, set it up on your local cluster, your dev cluster, and just try it out. That is my number one suggestion. That's the same thing when Namku joined, I told him as well. You get your hands dirty. So the initial first week, he was completely playing around with Litmus. He initially had some hiccups doing the setup. So we had like implemented like a namespace, master scope namespace, scope, those kind of things. He played around with it first, set up his GraphQL server and everything, and then he went deep into the code structure and all that. So it took some time for him to understand the code base, how the handlers and everything are written, and then he could do a deep dive on what things he could improve. And initially, we started suggesting some other things, and he picked it up by himself. So I would generally suggest you do a deep dive into the development guide, and once you get it up and running, you should check the code structure for, let's say, the GraphQL or the subscriber stuff like that. You will definitely get a hang of it.
Thanks a lot for it. I'll just follow the instructions what I've given. Like in the previous mentee can just help me out in this blogs. If you share some blogs, you can just go through it and then get a view of it. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
All right, thanks, Ram. I think we can open the floor for everyone else. We have a lot of folks who have joined in, who have joined us previously as well. So if you can just share some thoughts and ideas on how you looking at the project progress and how you're looking to contribute, if that's right. So anyone who can unmute themselves and then share some thoughts. So I think I can call out.
I had a couple of thoughts, but I think, yeah, I just saw Ruturaj unmuting himself. I think if you'd like to go ahead, please do so.
Hey, hi, everybody. Ruturaj here from India. Basically, I'm working with InfraCloud, and recently we have designed a sort of resiliency framework with Litmus, and yeah, working on that front. And regarding this, not contributing as a code, but in last month there was a Grafana happy hour meetup in Pune. So at that time I had given a talk around Litmus, and there is one follow blog which I'm writing, which will come around like in next week maybe, if everything goes right. So yeah, that's all I'm doing on Litmus.
Thanks, Ruturaj. I think blogs and meetup talks are also a great way to contribute. So thanks for doing that. Glad to know you're using Litmus as part of your resiliency framework. I had a couple of thoughts about what Shine presented, and I'd like to sort of hear feedback from folks on this call around it. I think one of the topics that was raised were about stale issues. I think you would expect to see a lot of issues not being taken to logical conclusions. I think it's a feature of most open source projects. The idea is always to mitigate and reduce that number. Having said that, you could bucket a lot of these issues as things that need debug or things that need, fixes, things that need maybe responses to mostly knowledge-based questions. But there are a lot of good number of issues which are of enhancement type or new feature requests. The ideal path for these kind of issues would be to slot them into the roadmap, then go about providing rough ETAs for that, and then we can always revisit depending upon the priorities and bandwidth of the maintainers. So having said that, the prioritization, the initial prioritization of the issues, which are enhancements and feature requests, need to go through some diligence process. Right? There needs to be an agreed upon method to say this issue is going to be prioritized over the other for implementation. I'm sure the issues are coming from folks who are hobbyists, enthusiasts. There might be issues coming from people who are using Litmus as part of their regular application testing, as part of their software delivery cycles. There might be some from folks like InfraCloud who are building their own resilience frameworks on top of Litmus and then probably using it in certain customer environments. So there may be varying degrees of importance you would attach to enhancement requests, feature requests. I mean, this is also true for bugs, but you would ideally want to fix bugs as they come. But in case of enhancements and feature requests, you would definitely like to attach some priority. So one of the ways I've seen some open source projects attacking this problem is by providing a mechanism to upvote or go ahead and state how much they would like to see this being implemented within the project, right? And then we can take a decision during these contributor sync-ups. I think the contributor sync-ups is most likely going to contain a quorum of maintainers, most maintainers belonging to different aspects of the project, folks that are doing the experiments, folks that are working on the orchestration side, folks that are on integrations, etc. I think some of them are here today, and I think more will join in subsequent calls. So we will have a quorum. So we will be able to go ahead and decide upon which ones to take, and then we can sort of add them into a project board on the Litmus repository, and then take it from there. And we can discuss progress on how things are going there, etc. Sometimes the classification of issues as tech debt, enhancements, bugs, all this can get a little bit blurry and prevent the right kind of prioritization, and it might hinder sort of the growth of the project. So I think that's something that I'm proposing. What do you guess? What do you think? Do you think we should do that? Should we allocate 15 minutes to go over the project board and see where we are on the issues, what new issues are coming in, and if someone would like to talk up some of the issues because they are facing it themselves?
Karthik, I had a same opinion, but I was having a different idea on this. Like you said, there are a few issues which should be prioritizing, which is fine, like some of the features coming from hobbies and stuff. But the features actually in terms, like let's say the features are really good, but we need a proper ETA or something. Just solely via GitHub discussions, it's a little difficult to come up with ETAs, and because we need a much more better clarity on things, and also understanding and how much they can contribute, stuff like that. So do you recommend taking this to the Litmus Dev Slack, or do all of that through this kind of cadence and through this kind of a meetup? Because I mean, ideally, if you're only targeting meetup, they might miss some of the meetings, or they might not be able to, produce their research or something. If you have some other, if you have like kind of occupied with some other topic. So would you rather suggest we take this on Litmus Dev, and then we can use the upvote and all that there, or
For
and
sure.
then we can like, yeah.
Yeah, definitely, Shane. I think yeah, that's the way to go. My intent also in the suggestion was to identify a list of upvoted issues that we can come and discuss about during the contrib call. The actual implementation and design for a given issue is something that we should definitely carry out in the Litmus Dev asynchronously. It might not be enough time for us to discuss that in this meeting. So I think there's some amount of, I'd say, product management that has to go on, where we decide that these are the issues that we are actually going to now pick for the subsequent quarters or subsequent releases. Some of those decisions can be made here, but the lead up to that in terms of upvotes, in terms of why something is relevant or why something is not, a lot of that groundwork can already be carried on in the Litmus Dev channel, and then we can definitely summarize our findings here, see if there are any objections, and then go ahead with the plan, or at least go ahead and say this is the plan. Right now it is all it's all ad hoc, I would say. There was a project board that we were maintaining some time back, but due to the maintainer priorities, the issues are now being picked more in terms of whether they're urgently needed by some of our users, and it's not being done in a very systematic way. So I think this will be an opportunity for us to get back on track.
Right.
Yeah, I want to like share a point on the same. So as Karthik mentioned, like there are some frequent issues that are coming up in our Slack channel. So like for example, we have that Helm related issue. So recently, a lot of users are trying to install their delegates or agents via Helm, but they were facing quite some issues with the same. So like we can have these priority items as a poll in our Litmus Slack. Like we can list down a few bugs or few action items, and we can let the community decide like which one is the priority, like what's the demand from the users who are using Litmus, and based on it we can invite those users in a call, or we can have a sync up, and like we can like define a time where we can make a release or work on it. So that would be pretty helpful, I guess. Karthik, any thoughts on this?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's definitely something we should do, Amit. Maybe one of the things we might want to discuss on this point is how best to carry out these polls. Litmus community Slack channel is a good place. But I think the folks there are at various levels of usage expertise. Some of them are real beginners, some of them are using it from a long time. Maybe GitHub discussions is one good place. You can basically tag the right folks there and say, you can go ahead and let us know. Or you could basically do that on the Litmus Slack channel by tagging the folks who reported it and folks who expressed interest in that issue in the past. So yeah, so definitely that's something that we can trial out, start doing polls either on GitHub or on Slack, and see how that process is going.
Yeah,
and we would not always need to, yeah, I think like Amit pointed out, it might not always need to be coming in monthly releases. We can also do patch releases. We have done quite a few patches in the past, but I think the last few beta releases and 2.x releases have been going out in the monthly cadence for issues that are really impacting users. We are also open to doing patch issues based on the conversations that carry on post the poll. So I'm just taking notes. One is start doing polls. Second one is about identifying a way to track what has been picked as part of the poll. Maybe it's via project boards or some such approach. And we also need a way to track the design discussions and implementation discussions going on for some of these items. Maybe that can be carried out within the issues themselves, or they can be dedicated threads started for it on Litmus Dev, or maybe Google Docs that we can share inside of the wiki of the Litmus repository to say, these are the implementation and discussion, design discussion notes for a given issue. I think that's one place where we can track that. So people have an account of what really transpired, why an issue was picked, what was the design and what was the thought process behind a certain approach, and how the implementation was carried out. Some of that can be tracked in the wiki, the links for which can be shared on the discussion or the Slack threads, etc. So
I
we'll
think
try to create a more formal process around this, and maybe seek reviews on the approach or the plan to mitigate this problem in a subsequent contact call.
I think one point, Karthik, I had to make was maybe we can also have some divided ownership. That's just a suggestion on specific agendas that we have, or specific features or bug fixes that we have. Let's say it's not necessary that the one who's having the ownership needs to dedicate all their time, but maybe we can just follow up over Slack or some threads, emails, anything, as you mentioned, GitHub discussions, somewhere where this ownership that's given, they can take a look or at least facilitate the same. That's just a suggestion.
Yeah, sure. So in fact, we have created the maintainers list, or we've sort of revamped, I should say, the maintainers list, depending upon the various project areas. So that's actually one of the steps that we've taken to increase contrib on the project, as well as give autonomy to the maintainers of a certain area within the project to start, planning ahead in terms of how that particular area can be improved, and then actually implement the plan with some help, of course, from the rest of the maintainer team and the general contributing community. So if you can just share that on the screen, Prithvi or Shane. I'm unable to share at this point. If you can just share the maintainers. Yeah. Yeah. So if you take a look at this table, we've divided the project development or the project code into various areas. And each area is associated with some services or components that actually get deployed when you install Litmus or you use it for chaos testing. And there are some repositories associated with these services or components. And then you have the maintainers or code owners associated with these repositories, alongside a group of secondary owners or reviewers, as we call them. So there are a good number of components in the control plane and the execution plane, and the repos are mentioned there, and you have the maintainers there. And there are other areas around experimentation, plugins for running experiments, bootstrapping experiments by the SDK. So these are the next set of important areas. And then you go to a lot of other testing and operations management aspect of the project, E2E, Helm charts, documentation, websites showing information about the project, hubs, etc. Right. So these are the external or user-facing aspects of the project. So each of these, like I said, has its own repositories and owners. So ideally, you would see a lot of traction or a lot of issues coming under the bucket of the execution plane, control plane, and chaos experiments, less so in terms of the others. So I think we do have people to look up to, and we do have owners who can actually veto decisions in terms of what we should prioritize and what we should do and how we should carry it out in those respective areas, and not just veto, but also help the folks who are contributing, who volunteer to contribute to those areas. So I think that system is now in place. It wasn't there, let's say, a couple of quarters ago. We do have it right now. So I think we should leverage that. And in fact, yeah, it's a good point, Prithvi. We should probably let the individual area owners speak up during these content sessions in terms of what issues are in their bucket and how they are progressing on that. I think that would be a great way for us to get a 360-degree view of how the issues are being treated in the project and how we're making progress. They can definitely help maintain, at least help with the housekeeping part mainly. Where are the design documents being placed? What are the Slack threads containing, the implementation discussions? What are the issues that are being prioritized? Why they did so? I think we can have individual owners, area owners, talk about some of that. Just took down that as a note as well. Does that, do you think that's a scalable model? Shayan, Amit, Om.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely take like based on the specific sections we are assigned, we have more control over. We can definitely take a look at the issues and then at least do a follow up on the Slack channel. And then we can take it to different multiple directions. That's fine. At least if we have a follow up in general, we can know the direction in which it might be heading, and if it needs more of a discussion, if it needs a architecture revamp or something like that, we can let's see where we might be heading. If it's too complicated, we might not do it upfront. We might add it to the roadmap, something like that. But I think it gives
Yes.
us clarity in general. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's the deciding criteria, the general thumb rule would be and the impact and how many users are blocked at a given point of time on a certain request. And of course, the feasibility of doing it. What is the blast radius of making a particular change, fixing a particular bug or introducing a particular feature? What would that involve? Definitely that is to be considered. And the bandwidth that the maintainers have at that point and the number of folks who are ready to contribute there, all of these sort of play a part in deciding whether a particular issue gets prioritized for fixing. So you might see a lot of low-hanging fruits getting picked initially, things that have significant user impact but are not going to take too much time to implement, and we also have a ready group of volunteers, contributors working on it. I think those are the kind of issues that we might end up targeting initially, and then we'll go from there. All right, I think thank you for sort of pitching in. We will share some of these notes. We will try and start documenting the outcomes or the discussions of these contributor sync-ups, let's say in a wiki page on Litmus repository. And we'll try implementing some of what we've discussed today and evaluate how we're going in the next call. We will start small. We'll start by doing a scrub of the issues that we already have, and we'll take up a few of them and throw them up for polls. And then we'll see what information we can gather based on those threads, and then we will try to do the prioritization and give an update in the subsequent content call. Yeah, thanks. I think that was one of the this was one of the things I wanted to discuss and bring up in the contrib call. So thanks for giving me an opportunity to talk about this.
Thanks, Karthik. I think this was an important discussion, and having a particular cadence or some thought process behind it really helps. So with this, I think I'll open the floor for other folks. We have some folks returning, some new folks joining in. So I'll start with the new folks who have joined in. I see Eric. I think he joined new or after a long time. So perhaps Eric, if you have any updates to share on how you're using Litmus, or if you're looking to contribute, maybe if you can just unmute yourself and share some inputs with us.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I'm actually just a fly on the wall today, just listening to all the progress you all have.
All right, thanks, Eric. If you have any progress to share, feel free to share it with us, maybe on the next calls or upcoming contrib sessions. But thanks for tuning in. Do we have anyone else who has some updates to share? Caleb is joining us after a long time. So Caleb, he did one of our chaos engineering meetups. So Caleb, if you have any updates on Litmus, or if you're looking to contribute.
Hello. Yeah. Yeah, just for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm here kind of on behalf of HCL Software. So we're doing cloud native stuff, and we use Litmus as part of our internal development and testing efforts. I don't have much news to share other than we're still using it. We're still exploring new ways to use Litmus. I think the last time we chatted, I think the use cases I described were more at the platform and infrastructure level. I can say we are starting to move more towards application specific testing. So for instance, using those probes, we're hooking it up with things like K6s and sorry, not just K6, which is a load testing tool. So we are starting to dig more into all of the features and functionality that Litmus has to offer. But yeah, other than that, I don't have much to share. Just thanks for having me, and it's great to be part of the community.
Thanks a lot, Caleb. I think it's great to know that you're still using Litmus, and appreciate all the support for the community, and we look forward to seeing you participating more in the community in the upcoming sessions as well. So moving on, I think we have NamQ. He's joined us pretty late. He's been one of the LFX mentees, and he's been doing some great work. He's also published a couple of blogs. So NamQ, I think we heard a lot from other folks, but if you have something to share, maybe an update on what you have been working on and how you look forward to work on Litmus, we'll be glad to know.
Yeah, okay. Hello, this is Namkyu Park from South Korea. I'm currently participating LFX mentorship as a mentee, and I'm really happy because I have joined the Litmus team as a member. Yeah, and when I was participating at LFX mentorship, I have few action items that changing legacy backend code, graphical server code to layered architecture patterns, and the second one is adding unit test codes to backend code. And I'm also writing few blog posts, and my LFX journey blog post will be shared maybe tomorrow or few days. And I also already published a blog about how to write an efficient unit test. Yeah, and yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Namkyu, and we really appreciate all your contributions, and looking forward to having you contribute more to the Litmus community moving ahead. So is there anyone else having some inputs? I see a couple of more folks. Nagesh, I think he's one of the new joinees. If you Just want to quickly introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Hey everyone, I'm Nagesh from India. Been just exploring LitmusChaos recently, and for now I'm working on Chaos Operator and Exporter, as I'm interested in Prometheus mostly. So yeah, came across some of the CVs in the Docker image of Operator and Exporter, and been solving them for now. And yeah, that's it.
Thanks a lot, Nagesh, for sharing it with us.
Thanks.
Great. Yeah, lastly, I think we have Om joining us after a long time. He's done some good work for the Chaos SDK and the Python SDK. So, Om, if you have any updates to share on how you've been working on Litmus and or how you're looking to contribute, please share it.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you all after a long time. Yeah, I have two things to share. One is like regarding that contribution thing. Lot of people reach out to me that I wanted to contribute and how to start working, because if you wanted to contribute to any of the LitmusChaos repo, that not only the chaos engineering, they need to know about the lot of components like Kubernetes, Docker, and many other things. Like if he is willing to contribute to Python or any Golang based repo. So initially I helped them, couple of them, and one of the colleague from my organization only, he said that I wanted to contribute, and I helped him as well. So we can see few contributions coming from my organization, one of my colleague. And the second thing is that I want to share and the area we should focus on in LitmusChaos after looking into the production level and a lot of customer experience. Like, so in most of the repos, we are using the Golang, and there is in every release of the Golang, there are a lot of vulnerabilities comes, and we are actually not tracing. At least we should focus on critical and high. So some sort of mechanism or some flow we should have, or someone dedicatedly look into it. So in every repos, if some vulnerabilities comes, we should fix that, because if someone wants to try or contribute or use the organization, and if they found that they are getting critical vulnerabilities, so there is the place where it will be very hard for us. So that is the one of the component we should focus on. And yeah, I'm also looking forward to contribute and come back to our repos. I'm looking forward for that. Thank you, Prithvi.
Thanks, Om. I think that's a great point. There is a sneak check on our pipelines, and we also enabled auto PR recommendations. But I think the main catch in taking the fixes recommended by Snake is to validate impact and test. And the bottleneck there is not having enough number of tests in order for us to confidently merge the security recommendations and then go ahead, which is why there's been a lot of backlog, a lot of issues have sort of stacked up. But I think the other folks who are joining us, we should be getting a good list of tests in the repositories, which should confidently allow us to merge these security recommendations and thereby have a way to validate that they're not causing any impact. I think that's where we are right now in terms of trying to build out more tests in order to be more proactive in taking security recommendations. Right now it's an offline process, and it's happening in spurts. So you sort of scrub it once, and then you leave a long period where you don't scrub it, and then you take all the security recommendations at another time in bulk, and then you test it out and then repeat the process, which is not very efficient, like you rightly pointed out. So I think, yeah, I think we need to take steps in that direction. Hopefully the increased test suite will help us.
Okay, thank you. Nice to hear that, Karthik sir. Thank you.
All right, folks, I think we are done with the table roundup, but I'll still open the full floor for any questions or any inputs. Maybe we can spend a couple of minutes there if someone has to share something, and then we can wrap up.
Yeah, this is Eric. I've got a question. So I've really not used Harness at all. I know we have some licenses here at our company, and I was curious about any functionality you have around quality gates in Harness. And so if you could point me to some documentation on that, that'd be super helpful.
Yeah, sure, Eric. We will, yeah, I can confirm that there are certain features in allowing you to decide whether or no you can sort of promote your application or microservice images into the next version, to the next higher environment. And there's some documentation available on how you can implement those checks. That's mostly on the Harness side. We will share that some of us here in the Litmus contrib call who are from Harness, we will share that information to you offline.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much. Do we have any other questions or any inputs? Or I think we can.
Nope, that's all I've got.
Right, folks.
Right. Thank you, everyone. I think this was great. Looking forward to the next community contrib sync up, and hopefully some of what we discussed we would have set into motion by then.
Right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for joining in. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
See you.